So check win, let's start creating that. So I'm allowed to create that outside of any other method. So I can create that here, I could create that here. I think I'm going to put it up close to where the code is. So I need to say what things are allowed to use this. I'm just going to use public for now. What I'm returning a true or false value. I want to check to see if it's true or false. So that's returning a Boolean. I give the name of it, and then the braces I'm using. Now it's complaining because it says, hey, you promised you'd return a Boolean, and I haven't yet. And it's going to keep complaining until that happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return false for now. That makes us happy, and away we go. What I'd like to do is check each of the possible ways of winning. Now, it turns out that in TicTacToe that's kind of arbitrary. So we have the columns, the rows, and the two diagonals. We actually have to manually say that. So I'm going to start with the first one. So if grid 0, 0 is an X, and grid 0, 1 is an X, and grid 0, 2 is an X, I'm going to return true. And just because I'm paranoid, I'm going to put parentheses around this to make sure that it does the two equal signs before it does the and statement. So there, and there. So this is one possible way to win. That is going down the first column. I believe that's right. Now, I've got to have 7 more of these. There's 8 possible ways to win. So I'm going to start in the next one. So maybe I'll do one of the diagonals. If grid 0, 0 is X, and grid 1, 1 is an X, and grid 2, 2 is an X. If you're having trouble seeing what the winning possibilities are, draw a picture. It really does help. Then we're going to return true there. So let's try this real quick. Let's see if we can get X to win on the diagonal. A1, A2, B2, B3, C3. Oh, I'm not printing anything out. It's going to be hard to tell. Let's actually change this so it actually prints out X wins. And I still need to clear the board, so I'm going to leave that part of the comment in. A1, A2, B2, B3. Hey, look, it caught my error. C3. X wins. Very good. So it did find that. Now, what about O winning? I don't really want to do this twice, once for X and once for O. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pass in who I'm checking for wins on as something called a parameter. If you think about it, the only thing that's changing in all of these is this particular variable here. Otherwise, it's exactly the same pattern for X as it is for O. So what I can do is I can take that pattern and just pass in the information I need. So what I'm going to pass in is X here. In the check win here, I'm going to have int player. So whatever player I pass in, that's the person I'm going to check for. So now what I'm going to do is, everywhere I have X, I'm going to replace that with player, because that's going to be the thing that varies. Let me copy and paste this, paste, 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 paste. So now, when I check wins for X's, it'll check all of the X's there. When I check win for O, it'll check all of the O's. So if I go down to where O plays, I can say if check win O is true, system out, O wins. And that's much faster than having to go through and have a whole nother method which changes just the X to the O's. So this is called a parameter. This is the sort of thing that you pass in to give it information to complete the pattern. This is the return type. This is the thing you're giving back. So up here, check when goes and runs that code and then gets replaced with either true or false, and then it makes this comparison. So it basically pauses here, runs this code down here, and then comes back and finishes this line. All right, so that allows us to deal with X wins, X losses. I should probably do something with ties and then clearing the board. So I'm not finished with this yet, obviously. You'll have to complete that yourself. Clearing the board is pretty easy. Public, probably void, clear board. I don't think I need to pass anything in. All I'm going to do is set every single square back to a blank. Now you can either just manually set all 9 of these, or you can use for loops, kind of like we did here, and just walk through all of A and B and set those to blank. So then I would call clear board. And I would also do it down here. So you'll need to complete that. Now, how about checking for wins? Or, I'm sorry, for checking for ties. Check tie. So if there is a tie, we should probably print that out and clear the board as well. And I'm going to have to do that down here as well. Check tie, I need to go through and see if there's any blanks. So public Boolean, I'm returning true or false as to whether or not there's a tie. And I don't really need to pass anything in, because regardless of who just played, I'm just checking to see if there are any blanks left on the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through my grid and return true. Well, how is this going to work? If I see any blanks, I'm going to return false. If I don't see any blanks, I'm going to return true. So actually the default on this one is going to be true. Now I need to walk through the whole board and check for blanks. I'm going to do for, control space, iterate over the array, and I'm going to go up through 3. I'm going to need another for loop, control space, iterate over the array, up through 3. If grid I, j is a blank, we know it's not a tie. If we get through all of these and we still haven't seen any blanks, we know that we're done and that it is a tie because everything's filled in. Notice that when you hit a return statement, it stops running the rest of this method. So once I hit this return, it's done. So regardless of what I and j are at, it's going to leave the check tie and go back to where I called it. All right, I think that's most of the details you need to complete this. Hopefully you can fill in the rest for yourself.